Yeah, and actually, I've had every time that a European company or a lead comes to me, the first thing they say is like, "Oh, we want to optimize for neighbor." And I'm like, wait a second. Let's see if it's worth it, so you don't just throw away your resources or anything. But yeah, everybody assumes that, oh, Korea it's neighbor 100%, so it's not always the case.
Hello, Raquel. How are you?
Hi, I'm good. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you. I was really looking forward to this conversation. Actually, I thought about it last year, but time, planning, whatever. So now is the time to speak with you, and I'm very happy. So thank you very much for joining. Could you please introduce yourself very quickly to the audience so they know a little bit about you and what are you doing, what you're doing at the moment?
So, hi everybody, and first, thank you for having me. I'm very excited. I listened to all the episodes actually. So, my name is Raquel, and I was a freelancer until recently, and I just shifted into an agency. We're only like a few members for now, but we focus on international SEO, web design, localization, and content mostly. And we focus on Spanish, English, and Korean speaking countries mostly.
Wow. Uh-huh.
So yeah, for now we are working with a few Korean clients, Spanish clients that want maybe to enter the Korean market mostly. So yeah, and my
Uh-huh.
company is called Soulful Connect.
Uh-huh. I
Just to
love
point
it.
that.
I really like the naming. But did you found the company yourself or co-found the company, or is it like a that you're starting working for someone else?
It's my company. Um,
Wow.
it's only me like um, taking care of it, but then I work with a few collaborators in other
Of
languages in
course.
order to
Uh-huh.
supply. But yeah,
Uh-huh.
yeah.
Wow, so super entrepreneur as well.
I always wanted to grow. I think like as a freelancer, you can maybe just reach until some point, and then if
Mm-hmm.
you want to like expand or grow more and work on more like bigger projects, you
Mm-hmm.
need more people. So that's why I wanted to make this shift, basically.
Wow. So congratulations because it's like a big leap, okay? Big step into creating a company. And just like as a start, I've been like hearing and reading about you and knowing about you because we share like a common ground. Uh, the audience must know or should know already. I'm also into translation and localization and multilingual communication field, and you as well. So you studied translation. How comes did you decide to pivot from translator to an SEO? Why?
So I had already been in the translation industry, I think, for 6 years when I
Mm-hmm.
started thinking about SEO. Um, for me, was honestly not finding enough good paying jobs in translation.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Speaking with other colleagues, they were saying like a few years, like many years ago, it was easier. Like companies were not trying to cut the prices and all that. But I feel like when I started freelancing, it was a bit, complicated moments. So that's when I decided why not add like a specialism. And I found SEO. I had worked in a digital marketing company when I was in Korea too. And
Ah,
I
okay.
touched a little bit of SEO. So it was kind of like connected. I was like, oh, maybe I should, learn more. So for me, I started doing SEO localization courses because
Mm-hmm.
the only thing I wanted to do was translation with SEO, nothing else. But then I started liking in more, and I wanted to know more and the technical stuff. I've always been like love technical stuff or internet, things like that. So that's when I started taking proper SEO courses, and and going to events and in conferences and learning more. And now I would say that most of my work is SEO related, and then
Mm-hmm.
adding the localization for international projects mostly.
Mm-hmm. So you've I reckon that you moved from a purely content SEO to like
Yeah,
a more like wider technical SEO or off-page SEO, like link building, whatever.
yeah,
Um,
like the
uh,
strategy part and all that.
uh-huh. Mm-hmm. That's super interesting, and I think you did like a really right move, especially nowadays with AI and everything. That we would talk a little bit about that later.
Yeah,
The localization and the translation field is like suffering a little bit or not so little about this emergence of AI. What do you reckon about as your old self as a localization professional? What do you think the right um, angle is in regards to AI plus localization?
I we can agree that now, I think AI is improving how they translate content,
Mm-hmm,
but I'm one of the few that thinks that still you need that human touch.
mm-hmm,
So for me, um, unless a client very specifically asks not to translate to AI and then have, I don't know, a proofreader or somebody that revises the text afterwards, I always try to use translators and not rely on AI, because I feel like the result is always better.
mm-hmm,
But yeah, I agree that we are going to have it more difficult maybe as AI improves.
mm-hmm.
Um, I don't know if you have noticed it, maybe like with some of your clients also, that they ask you to use more AI. Or
Yeah, of course. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Especially like for like mostly European languages, because the data that AI has been trained with,
yeah,
um, is mostly, I mean, European languages. But what happens with Korean and Asian languages? Are they also like good translations coming from AI or not?
I would say maybe a year ago or so it wasn't, but now it's improving. Yeah, I was
Yeah,
actually
yeah,
having
yeah.
an interesting conversation with Eric from Ahrefs, because he
Uh
was
huh.
asking me like, what do you think about those things? And then I had I was trying something, because normally when I'm with a Korean client, I have the meeting in Korean and all those things. But for very technical parts or contract parts, or like proposals, things like that, I use AI to to help me.
Uh huh.
And I had a meeting with one client that we had a good relationship, and I told them like I help myself with AI. What do you think? Is it accurate? And they were like, yeah, actually, I thought it was a human. you know. So yeah, I think Korean has improved a lot.
Mm-hmm.
I
Wow.
remember, yeah,
Wow.
maybe a year ago or something like that. It wasn't that good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I reckon it's gonna keep on improving in the
Yeah.
future. So we have to really like think about you know the whole picture and how we can actually add value to the companies actually. And
Yeah.
going back to Korea,
Hmm.
I have been reading like when preparing the interview that you spent quite a long time there. Can you can you tell us a little bit about what's the experience of like a Spanish or a Spaniard going into Korea, which seems like very far away, and what are the main differences, like also in related to culture, content, and UX? So now I'm throwing you loads of questions.
Yeah.
So so can you tell us a little bit of like a five or six um, differences, but also things that could be similar to more European or more Spanish standards, as like from a digital marketing and a digital communication perspective?
So first things first, why I went to Korea, how it all started. I was actually, I always liked studying languages. Many won't know, but I also know German and Japanese, not as
Mm-hmm.
well as Korean. I hope so. But yeah, I started like studying Japanese, and I knew when I went to university, I wanted to do like an exchange program or something.
Mm-hmm.
And my first bet was always Japan. But then at some point, I started knowing more about Korea, discovering the language, and I started studying by myself. And then last minute, I was like, no, I'll actually go to Korea. So I spent there like 1 year as an
Mm-hmm.
exchange. And I liked it so much that I came back, I graduated, and I went back to study a master's degree. And I think in total, I ended up spending like 6 years over there.
Wow.
Yeah. So the culture there is very different. Obviously, it's very welcoming.
Mm-hmm.
Um, they always try to help you. If you're in the street and they see you a bit lost, they approach you. I have a funny anecdote. I went with my parents one time to visit, and we were lost. And this guy approaches us, and they were like, "Do you need help?" And we're like, "Well, we're trying to go to our hotel." He literally took us to the hotel. Like he was not going to
Wow.
that direction, but he made sure that we arrived. So it's like those little things in
Mm-hmm.
Korean culture that I really love. They always like make sure that you are okay, that you are welcome. Also, food, transportation is very good. You can move around. For them, if they are like 1 second late, it's like a tragedy for them. Like if you compare to Spain, sometimes Renfe can be 1 hour late. Oh, no problem.
Yeah.
But yeah, in Korea, those things, they are very like strict. And I don't know, like in general, I think it's a country that someone should visit. It's very different, but in a good way.
Mm-hmm.
And the second question was in terms of UX or digital
Yeah.
marketing.
Mm-hmm.
Um, well, besides obviously them using Naver, that pretty sure we will talk about it later.
Yeah.
Um, for example, for websites, they tend to like more colorful websites, more websites packed with a lot of information. Whereas if you compare me for Spain, you want to find information directly, you don't want as much options. But for them, yeah, you have a lot of options, colors, typography, cute images, all those things. Um, I don't know what else.
Does it happen the same like with China or Japan that, for example, talking about e-commerce, that like product description pages are like super packed with information and like they need to really specify every single thing about the product, which is not really common here and in Europe or in most
Yeah,
parts of Europe. Does it happen the same there in Korea?
yeah, and I have this feeling that Koreans want to know everything, like even like for example, if it's food or something like that, the ingredients they are using, they put importance on that, the origin of everything, how they make the product. There's even like something that I find funny. They normally put like a section of how to use the product. For example, if I don't know, um, if you're selling a camping tent,
Mm-hmm.
they will give you examples like, oh, you can use it like if you go camping, or I don't know, to make a little fort in your living room with your kids. Like they give you like a few examples on how to use it,
Mm-hmm.
because that's
Mm-hmm.
what incentivates them to be like, oh yeah, maybe I can use it for that.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know, I find that quite interesting.
I reckon that's very good for SEO as well, no?
Yeah.
Like all those all those use cases, no? That's very interesting. And what about now getting deeper into SEO? What's would you say the biggest difference when doing SEO for the Spanish or English language when doing SEO for Korean language,
Mm,
apart
I
from
would,
the language and the culture? No?
yeah, I would say mostly how users search. That
Mm-hmm.
changes a lot. I know in Spanish, for example, we tend to search things like with very long sentences.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, what's the best restaurant in Barcelona? Something like that.
Mm-hmm.
In Korean, for example, they make it as short as possible. They
Uh-huh.
will just use the best Barcelona restaurant like this,
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
and they use a lot of slang or trendy
Mm-hmm.
words. So you
Mm-hmm.
constantly need to be knowing what words are being used. Um, yeah, I would say intent mostly, and also as we said before, how to organize the information. If
Mm-hmm.
it's e-commerce, something like that, like if it's more benefit wise, if it's more how to use these or things like that.
Mm-hmm. That's a very interesting thing, especially about the intent, because and now going back a little bit about localization,
Yeah,
well, it is widely known that we shouldn't be translating keywords because of the intent, basically. And here we have an example, no, about how Koreans search for information and how people from Spain or even English-speaking countries search for information. No,
yeah,
it by what you have said, it rings a bell like as if Koreans are doing like old SEO, where, for example, people from my age, we started looking for information like, old SEO, like trying to find the right keyword to put it there, like short, not natural queries. Whereas nowadays, Google is very intelligent, not to mention AI overviews, whatever. Um, but I'm quite surprised about this, about Korean, no? That they tend to do it shortly and not very natural then.
for them it is more natural because that's just how they search.
Mm-hmm.
And it's something that maybe I started understanding more when I was living there, because
Mm-hmm.
since I speak the language, and normally, like, if you want to find more information about, I don't know, places that you want to go, or services or anything, you'll use Naver. So I kind of started like catching how they search for those things, or how my friends were searching, and I started doing it too, like, naturally. So for
Mm-hmm.
them it's something very natural. It doesn't seem like forced or like keyword stuffing or nothing like that. But it's true what you mentioned, that um literally last week, Neighbor Search, which is like the official blog of for Neighbor, they were saying that they were implementing like a new feature, and
Mm-hmm.
that was to try to give users like more semantically related keywords, and results. And that shows you, like, they were maybe like focusing on using as many keywords as possible in their in
Mm-hmm.
their content, but now they want to shift more as how Google is, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
talk naturally, write naturally, and then use semantic keywords related to your query,
Mm-hmm.
um, topic clusters, all of these things.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I've been seeing this shift. So let's see if it works or what happens.
Yeah, because what about the voice search there? Do they use voice search as well, or not so much?
Uh, Honestly, I'm not sure. I haven't really heard a lot about voice search over there.
Mm-hmm.
I would say no. Maybe like here some people use it,
Mm-hmm.
but it's not. Yeah, I wouldn't say it's that typical.
Yeah, because I mean,
Yeah.
as you know, like voice search is mostly semantic, no? It's like
Mm,
supernatural. So yeah, maybe they are going to be implementing that as well. And now going back to Naver versus Google, we
mhm.
have like like those of us who know a little bit about international SEO, whatever, we know that Naver is Korea or Yandex is Russia, etc., or Baidu is China.
Yeah.
However, nowadays, I reckon that they are also, all these countries, they are also using Google for some like type of search, of searching. Does this happen also in Korea? Do they have like a neighbor for everything, but they use Google for some other types of searches? I think you wrote something about this. Maybe am I
Yeah.
right? Okay,
Yeah.
you see, I'm okay.
You're on top
So
of everything.
so
So,
tell us a little bit. Yeah.
um, yeah, the thing about Neighbor, I think a lot of people think that Neighbor is the king in Korea. And it's
Mm-hmm.
true that I think the market share is a bit higher than Google, but they are very similar.
Oh,
That
really?
means, yeah, that means Koreans use both. Um, I would say in general, because it depends on the niche, obviously, but for things like, I don't know, like stores, or if they want to buy something, or if they want to, I don't know, go to a hairdresser, and they want
Mm-hmm.
information about prices, they want to book an appointment, things like that, they will mainly use Neighbor.
Mm-hmm.
Neighbor has everything integrated, whereas if you find a place, they also have like Google Business Profile for Neighbor.
Mm-hmm.
It's called Neighbor Places. If they find a place, they can book everything inside of Neighbor. Everything is integrated. They can
Mm-hmm.
even pay through Neighbor too. So for Koreans, I think that's the most convenient. They have everything there. And also, to read reviews, they will trust other Koreans writing reviews about the place and all that. But maybe for more technical things, they
Mm-hmm.
will rely on Google.
Okay. Uh-huh.
So, and you can see, like, for example, I use tools to search for keywords on Neighbor. I use tools for keywords on Google. And sometimes, I'm curious and I search the same exact thing in both. And you can see the difference. Maybe in Google, like for, I don't know, in the example that I was giving, it was hosting providers. Um, Maybe they have like 1,000 searches per month, whereas in Google, sorry, in Neighbor, maybe was only 10. Like
Wow.
you can see a lot of difference.
Mm-hmm. So that's a really interesting thing because whenever you are like, as you said, with your company, Seoulful Connect, whenever you are like setting up a strategy or drafting a strategy for a company to get into Korea, you have to take into account all these differences as well, no? Like what type of company it is, if they would be using more Naver or Google. That's really interesting.
Yeah, and actually, I've had every time that a European company or a lead comes to me, the first thing they say is like, "Oh, we want to optimize for Neighbor." And I'm like, wait a second. Let's see if it's
Okay.
worth it, so you don't just throw away your resources or anything. But yeah, everybody assumes that, oh, Korea, it's Neighbor 100%, so it's not always the case.
Uh-huh. Wow. And what about the Naver ecosystem? Like, I reckon it works more or less like Baidu, which is, as you said, everything integrated,
Yeah.
like Naver places, payment, whatever. What about um, paid strategies? Do they have their own Google ads or Google shopping, or how does this work?
So one thing about Neighbor is that they tend to prioritize paid ads. If you go to Neighbor and search for something, there's cases where you will find maybe 10 ads before the organic results.
Oh,
So
wow.
it's, yeah, it is difficult, sometimes for some queries to optimize just for organically. Um, they have their own ads, like the part where they show the ads is called Power Link, I think it was something like that.
Mhm.
But yeah, it's recommended to also optimize for ads. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
they have their own. I don't know the exact name, but as same as Google Ads platform, they have their own that you
Mm-hmm.
should use for it. They also rely a lot on ads on Kakao Talk. I don't know if you've heard of Kakao Talk.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
It's like a. I don't like saying it's the WhatsApp Korean version because
Yeah.
WhatsApp doesn't have all the functionalities that Kakao Talk does. But also, like a lot of businesses also, push like ads on Kakao Talk. So yeah, I think it's one of the most important parts when optimizing for neighbor.
Interesting. And
Yeah.
what do ads there look like? I mean, do they look like Google ads, like text, or is it like also images, or
Yeah, it's
what do they
similar
look
to
like?
Google. It's similar to Google. Um,
Okay.
yeah, they have the display ones, they have the text ones.
Mm-hmm.
So
Oh,
depending on what
interesting.
you want to announce, one is better than the other. I don't touch a lot of ads, so I'm not, I don't know a lot about it, but yeah, they have
Mm-hmm.
similar.
Okay. And what about any technical considerations related to Naver, and also related to like content formats? What do you reckon are the key things here?
So for technical, one thing that's maybe the biggest difference or something special about Neighbor is that in order for your website to first show in
Hmm.
Neighbor results, you need to input it. You need to submit it.
Okay.
It's not like Google that, if you don't have Google Search Console at some point,
Yeah.
it's going to crawl it and index it. No, you have to tell him like, hey, my website is here,
This
index it.
is this is SEO from 1990s. That
Yeah,
that you needed to submit your page actually, in
I didn't
order
know
to, yeah, 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 yeah. It's like ages ago. You needed to submit your page to some kind of directories
that.
in
Uh-huh.
order to be there. Otherwise, you wouldn't appear.
Yeah,
But
so
that's
Neighbor,
that's
it's a,
ages ago. Yeah. Oh, that's interesting as well. Uh huh.
and
And
also,
any
yeah.
see, yeah, yeah,
No,
yeah.
no,
Any other text?
yeah, and also I would say it takes longer for Neighbor to crawl the results. So
Uh huh.
it might take longer maybe to show your content. Another thing is like it's in Neighbor's search console, which is called Neighbor Search Advisor. You can only submit one sitemap at a time. So it's recommended to submit the one only for the Korean part of your website, so
Ah.
it discovers it quicker. Um, what else? For example, page speed. Page speed is very important in Naver. As you
Mm-hmm.
might know, in Korea, they have one of the highest speed internets in the world.
Ah, I didn't know. I didn't know.
Yeah.
Ah.
I think Japan
Okay.
also, I'm not quite sure, but yeah, in Korea, everything is very fast. They have this expression in Korean called pali pali, which means fast, fast. So they live by it, in every aspect of their life. So yeah, like if
Mm-hmm.
you want to your content to have a possibility to rank on Naver, it has to be fast. It has to have a good speed. Also, for example, like hreflang, Naver doesn't support hreflang, so you need the HTML meta tag on
Okay.
your website.
Uh huh.
Um, and then
Wow.
small
So
things,
so
for
many
example,
so many differences. Huh?
there are some. And then other maybe smaller things, for example, title tags. They only support until 40 characters, I think.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to keep that in mind to shorten it so it doesn't appear cut. And same with
Mm-hmm.
meta description. I think it's around 80 or 90 characters.
Wow. So it's
Yeah,
almost like half of it.
yeah. The good thing is that the Korean languages, like it's
Yeah.
like
The shorter. No.
yeah. So it makes sense, but yeah, it's things that you have to consider.
Mm-hmm.
And you asked about content, I think.
Yeah. Yeah.
um Okay, so one thing that you have to keep in mind is that Naver is always going to prioritize its own content. You
Mm-hmm.
know, if you have, let's say, a website on WordPress or that's showing on Google perfectly well, it might not show that well on Naver, even if you have everything optimized and so on. They prioritize their own blogs, Naver blogs. So um, yeah, mostly like you how you say UGC,
Mm-hmm.
user generated
Yeah,
content.
generate the content. Yeah.
Yeah, so the blogs that we know, like when you search for any blog on Google, it has like a structure and headings
Mm-hmm.
and
Yeah.
maybe a more formal tone, and things like that. For Neighbor, it's more like somebody giving an opinion, like a diary.
Okay.
Like it doesn't follow like the same structure. It's more informal. You're giving your opinion. You might use a lot of images, emojis, all these things, and that's just how it works. So it might be like
Mm.
shocking, maybe the difference.
Oh wow. That's maybe like some sort of like a Reddit uh mm, platform, no? Like full of like first person like comments on brands and everything, no?
they
Um
they actually have their own Reddit like platform, which it's called
mhm.
Neighbor Cafe. It's also
Uh-huh.
like communities that you can like subscribe, and you have, it's like a forum, like you can talk about a topic and all that. But I
Wow.
would say, I know from my perspective, I think blogs are more used than cafes. Also, maybe
Mhm.
depending on your niche.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm. So very interesting, huh? Very interesting. And do you have any example of any company or any projects that you could tell us without NDAs, or even not mentioning like the name of the project? So just to illustrate how you helped like an international company getting more clients in Korea.
Well, I'm gonna mention because I have a few NDAs in place, so I cannot talk about projects right now. But um, I just want to mention how approachable neighbor is
Mm-hmm.
if you know how to do it. I have this friend in Korea. She's Spanish and she's living there. So as a side job, she wanted to start teaching Spanish. You know.
Mm-hmm.
So at first, she was getting clients, but from people she knew and things like that. And then at some point, we were talking about it, and she knew I was doing marketing, SEO, and all that. And she asked me for help, and I'm like, well, what are you doing right now to promote yourself? What do you have in place? And she said that she had created a very small, I think it was a Wix website,
Uh-huh.
but it was not working. She had it translated into Korean because her husband is Korean, so it was proper Korean. And then I started thinking because, like I see a lot of Koreans that when they study Spanish, as I said before, they publish a lot of blogs in
Mm-hmm.
this informal way, maybe um, telling their experience or saying, oh, today I learned this word, and then they interact within each other.
Mm-hmm.
So I told her, like, how about you just forget about your website for a second, create a blog, with the name
Mm-hmm.
of she was going for, and start, posting daily, because another thing that is important in neighbor is freshness and you know a bit ready available information.
Mm-hmm.
So post every day, things related about grammar, anything in Korean. And slowly she started gaining traction, because
Wow.
Koreans would go there to find those things. Then also she was participating um, in those communities, or they also have this like Quora style called Knowledge
Mm-hmm.
In, where Koreans would ask about Spanish grammar, all that, and she would reply to everything. She wouldn't market herself, but she had her username with the same name as
Uh-huh.
her company. So little by little, she started to be known in there because she was answering everything that she could. And when she finally started getting some organic clients, let's say, we also suggested like to collaborate with influencers, because a lot
Ah.
of influencers write those blogs, and a lot of
Mm-hmm.
brands go to those influencers to also like promote their products. So
Mm-hmm.
it was influencers that may were themselves studying Spanish, or they were talking about traveling to Spain, things like that. And they would publish blogs that were very natural because they were like, oh yeah, I'm preparing to go to study to Spain, and I started having classes with this person, and my Spanish improved a lot. And like they always give their opinion, but it has like a sales part in it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And yeah, and at some point she had enough, students to support herself. So we didn't even use the website that she had on Wix. In fact, she just ended up deleting it. So it just like this being in the community, and keep posting and keep talking about the same topic, and don't change.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, that's how she.
Wow. And also the importance, no, of KOLs, no, or I don't know if they are called KO, like key opinion leaders, no, also
Yeah.
in Korea. Very interesting. And now moving into like more SEO or multilingual SEO, international SEO. Um, what is that you like most about doing international SEO or multilingual SEO?
Um. Well,
Because
for me, yeah,
like you say you love languages, that's
yeah.
obvious. Okay, you speak German, Japanese, and Korean, and you studied translation, so you love languages for sure. So what's the key thing for you when doing multilingual or international SEO?
Well, I would say the thing I like the most, as you say, might be obvious, but for me is the part where I can still use my translation and localization background,
Mm-hmm.
and use it in SEO, because I felt like I didn't want to lose that part, even if I prefer doing more SEO. So that's how I was like, okay, I will use it and use it for international SEO. But for me, what I like is just seeing how different cultures are. Like it's something very interesting. Um, and yeah, maybe I know more about Korean culture because I've breathed and lived the Korean culture. But sometimes, when I have to, I don't know, um, optimize for other countries, or help other companies with other languages and things like that, it's how different the cultures are and how we have to change the approach and all those things. That's what I really like. It's always
Mm-hmm.
different, you know.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. And what's the biggest international SEO idea that you think is wrong? Not that you think is right, that you think is wrong, or you think that people like commonly thinks about, like the typical saying of HR flank is super important, blah 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 blah, and then you just like mentioned that in Naver
Hmm.
um, they don't think about it. Do you have any other examples about this? I haven't given you any time to think. Maybe that's
Okay, so the question is how
like something that would work maybe for other countries, but Korea, or if you have like two different countries, what do you think it could work there, or any ideas on um, international SEO myths?
mm, well, I don't know if it's a myth or not, but I do see that still there's a lot of people that translate keywords,
Oh,
and it's
yes.
something that it's been talk and talk and talk over, but it's there. Um,
Yeah, but I think I don't know if you agree with me, but I think that the only ones like doing it properly is the ones that we have like a sort of like a linguistic background, because most or some of the even big digital marketing agencies, they just don't care. They don't do a native keyword research. They just like try to do maybe reverse engineering, like seeing what the competitors are doing and then doing the same in terms of keywords.
Mhm.
But they, like most of them, or at least the ones that unfortunately I have connected with, not all of them obviously, but
Yeah.
most of them, they just don't care. They just do this and they don't do like a native keyword research. That's, to me, that's appalling. It's really
So
bad.
I do agree. I feel like there's, for me, two situations I have experienced. One is, like you say, some digital marketing companies, maybe they are not, maybe they don't focus on international SEO, but they want to add this service. And then what
Mm,
they do, they will ask translators that have some SEO background to, yeah, to maybe they give them an English keywords list, and they say, okay, find me the equivalents, in your country
yeah,
or with the
yeah,
search volume, blah blah. So I've done that for some companies, but yeah, it feels sometimes a bit unnatural. That's because that's not how I would approach multilingual keyword research. But also, I've seen like SEO translators or translation agencies that say they do multilingual SEO.
oh yes, oh
And then
yes.
I've actually had translators come to me. They say that they have on the LinkedIn, the that line where you put what you do. It says SEO, but then they've come to me and asked me, okay, I have this client that asked for a keyword research. How do I start this? And I'm like, "Okay, maybe you should, train a bit more before offering this service." So I've, because I also started like that. I also started studying SEO localization courses and things like that. I feel like most of them, not all of them, because there are some good ones out there, they always teach the same, that you have to find an equivalent and then the keyword with the most search volume but less keyword difficulty. And then you just have to put those keywords in the heading and in certain parts and in the URL, and that's it, right? That's how they teach them. But it's bigger than that. International
Of
SEO, it's a lot
course.
of factors, and they only might do like a bit of the on page part, the content part,
Hmm.
but sometimes they sell it as the whole international SEO strategy.
Yeah, yeah.
You know? And then
I
obviously,
I
yeah,
cannot I cannot agree more with you. I think there is a lot of bullshit
yeah,
in SEO localization courses, and especially because they don't teach that what they are teaching is just like a super tiny part of what international SEO really is. I
yeah,
mean, if you're teaching SEO localization, saying, okay, we're just going to be looking at this very tiny part, that's okay. But don't try to sell that you're doing international SEO when you are just doing this tiny little part of the whole process, no? But that's that's life nowadays.
it's crazy
I
because
do agree.
lately every day I see a new translator or company that is offering
A new
SEO.
SEO translator, yeah, yeah,
And yeah,
yeah.
some of them are doing the right part. They are studying proper SEO courses when they teach you all the
Mm-hmm,
foundation and the technical
mm-hmm.
part. Because maybe after that they want to stick to the content part and maybe
Yeah,
give the technical part to a technical
to someone
SEO.
else. Yeah,
But at least they know what it
yeah,
is, what it entails. You know what I mean? So those people are doing it right, I think. But yeah, like the people I'm talking about is the one that we mentioned, that they just want to add another thing because now it's popular. Everybody wants to do
yeah,
SEO, but
yeah,
they don't really do it well.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I know, I know. I remember when I started teaching SEO translation, like 7 years ago or something like that,
Yeah,
no one was speaking about this, or very little, like few people,
yeah,
and now it's just like it seems like to be like hot topic. Everyone's like super,
everyone.
uh, super professional on this. Anyway, what can you tell us, just like to finish, because we are already like almost an hour. Um, what do you think, beyond translation? What's the cultural adaptation and UX have to do with international SEO or multilingual SEO. We already said that it is very important to think about search intent. Okay, so that's why we are not translating keywords, guys. Thank you. But what about culture adaptation and UX? Can you tell us a little, like an example of this? Maybe it is clearer that way.
Well, for starters, like, um, I think localization is absolutely key. And I feel like that's something that still a lot of companies don't really pay attention to. They just
Mm-hmm.
think, like they can, as we said before, translate something with AI and leave it like that. Um, but actually, it entails more, like, besides obviously what we said, the search intent and how users' search behavior changes over
Mm-hmm.
countries. And you have to adapt to that. If not, nobody's going to find you. Also, you have to pay attention to the little things. I don't know, if you have an e-commerce, for example, you have to localize the currency, you have to change the measurements. If I'm buying a t-shirt that comes from the US, I don't know, maybe, what do they use there, inches, right? So maybe I want to know in centimeters, or I don't know, something like this.
Mm-hmm.
Local regulations.
Mm-hmm.
um, I had a Korean client that wanting to export some food related product into the US and Spain. And, like, there's different regulations. Maybe they
Yep.
are stricter in Spain, so they had to do this research. Those are things that you also have to consider that maybe are not super content related, but, still it has a
Yeah.
weight.
Yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And I don't know, as we said before, design, even with images. I don't know, if you are optimizing for other countries, make sure that, for example, if you're optimizing for Asia, make sure that some models are Asian, so they feel, how do you say,
Yeah.
like,
Yeah. Yeah. So they connect now
yeah, so they
with the
connect.
brand. Yeah.
And also, for example, if you translate to other languages, also make sure to leave some space, because in UX, maybe, like, some text is longer. For example, German. German is very long. So make sure when you're designing your website that you have those things into consideration, so the layout doesn't break or does weird things.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, I think things
Yeah.
I can think of right now.
Yeah, that's cool. That's really cool. I don't know if you have any other things to comment. I think we have more or less covered what I wanted to for the audience to make sure that first searching templates, and then what about the difference, the main differences about Naver plus Google, and then also I get this idea of, okay, sometimes you need to optimize for Naver, but some other times you need to optimize for Google because it's still there in Korea, no? That's a very interesting thing. I've learned many things. I don't know if you want to add something else before uh, asking you my two last questions,
I don't know what we could add. Um,
if anything, because I was about to ask you about the naming of your company, but it's pretty straightforward. I
I
love straightforward naming, So you see the name of the company, you know what it does. That's, to me, it's fantastic, amazing. I don't know why people overcomplicate things about this. What about namings with companies also in Korea? Do you do you know like any, because we know like the typical ones that we say that we have to adapt the naming to the country in order not to be like really perceived as a negative, whatever. Does this happen also in Korean?
it didn't happen in, with people I work with, but funnily enough, if you go to Korea, sometimes they want to put an English name, in their business, like a
Uh-huh.
clothing store, things like that. But it's very weird. Maybe,
Okay.
for example, one I can remember from my last visit to Korea, there was one that was something like swallowing room,
Wow.
and it was a clothing store. And I'm like, I don't think that name, it's
No.
proper. So yeah, there are cases where I think they just want to maybe make the name trendy, because if you use
Yeah.
English, it's more trendy. But I think they should, maybe research before if that's something that is going to sound right to foreigners. But yeah,
Hmm.
there's a few cases about it. Yeah, but I've seen
Yeah.
it most in businesses, like local businesses there.
Cool. So let me ask you my first typical question, which is: did you happen to have like a culture clash, language clash drama whenever you were in your trips around the world that you could tell us, like an anecdote showing?
Well, for example, what I've noticed more is in business or
Hmm.
with treating with clients. Um, Again, this last time I was in Korea was this past summer. I had a couple of meetings in person with clients there, and it
Hmm.
just maybe because I'm just used to the culture already after 6 years, so it's not like wow for me. But the difference still, a bit amazed me. For example, they prefer to first how you say form like a connection with
Hmm.
you before start
Hmm.
working together, so
Yeah.
for example, they will invite you to eat, while you talk about the project or about the proposal, then go for coffee. In Korea, they say a lot of business deals are closed over drinks. They
Yeah.
will maybe
Yeah.
go drink and talk about business. So for that culture, it's very important, this approach, this
Hmm. Hmm.
closeness, and also like a bit of the hierarchy. Like
Hmm.
for example, in Spain, if you have an opinion, maybe you can tell your boss, like, hey, I think maybe we should do it like this, and it's normal. There, no, you cannot give your opinion. The boss
Hmm.
is always right. So you have to take those things into consideration. If even if you are a business that wants to be introduced in Korea or any country, I'm just using
Hmm.
Korea as an example because it's the closest to me. But you have to know how those people treat things, like how
Hmm.
in business wise, in culture wise, all those things in marketing. Because if not, there can be like misunderstandings, and maybe you cannot close the deal or you cannot, you know, um, be recognized in that market. So yeah, I think that's one example.
Hmm.
Like,
That's a good one, and it's like a good reminder for all those companies who want to get into Asia. I wouldn't just say Korea, because I think it
yeah, I
happens the
think
same in
Malaysia,
China,
yeah.
in China as well, at least. And so the very last question, Raquel, who would you invite to join me to talk about international stuff? It could be international SEO, it could be international business, it could be international whatever.
Um, that's a difficult one because you already invited a lot of good people in reference. But I've been recently talking a lot with this colleague. I don't know if you know her. Her name is Laura Abreu.
Laura?
Abreu, maybe you heard of her. No, she also lived in Hong Kong, I think, for a few years.
Ah, okay.
If I'm not mistaken, also in Australia. So she has
Hmm.
this international background. I know she's worked with very important companies in SEO and PPC.
Uh-huh.
And she's recently, I see her speaking more in international conferences and all that, and
Hmm.
she focuses on tourism, like
Ah, okay.
tourist brands and all that. So,
Uh-huh.
we talked for a while, and I think it would be very interesting to her what she has to share.
That's good. That's really amazing, because actually tourism, which is like a big, big, big sector here in Spain, because, we live out of tourism mainly.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna say anything more about it. Anyway, and I have only had one episode on tourism in the podcast, so
I think it
that's
would
a
be
good one.
interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that could be a good one. Raquel, it's been a super pleasure to get to, I mean, to get to know you a little bit more. We haven't really met in person, I think,
I
yet.
saw you. I saw you
When did you show me?
in this event in Girona. SEO
Ah,
days.
the SEO day.
But you know,
Ah,
I wanted to approach you, but you were talking to people, and then you know we had to go back to the talks and all that, so I didn't have the opportunity. But yeah, I saw you there, and I wanted to say
ah.
hi, and then I
So
haven't seen you again.
next time, just like me, ping me.
I will. I will.
Raquel, it's been a super pleasure. Thank you very much for joining. And I'll be seeing you at any SEO digital marketing event very soon.
I hope
Bye
so.
bye.
And thank you so much for inviting me. And I hope people can learn something from
Of
Korea,
course.
from my experience. And yeah,
Thank you very much. Bye bye.
bye.